In the quiet hours of morning, before the world begins to move, there is a rare stillness. Yet, even then, many of us wake already burdened by emotions, anxiety, irritation, worry, a sense that something is missing. We live in a time of abundance, yet our hearts often feel restless. We chase comfort, recognition, success, and control, believing they will grant us peace. But the more we run after them, the more elusive peace becomes. This is the paradox of everyday life. We have learned to control almost everything: machines, schedules, information, but not our own thoughts and feelings. One word can disturb our mood. A single comment can ignite anger or sadness. We may appear calm, but inside, we are constantly reacting. In Buddhism, this inner turbulence is not a failure, it is a teacher. The Buddha compared the mind to a monkey, jumping from branch to branch, seeking fruit, avoiding pain. The more we identify with this restless movement, the more we suffer. We try to suppress emotions, to pretend they are not there, but that only strengthens them. The real art lies not in control, but in understanding. To control emotions is not to push them down. It is to see clearly how they arise, how they fade, and what they teach. Every emotion, anger, joy, jealousy, fear, contains a seed of wisdom. When observed mindfully, they reveal the hidden habits of the mind, our attachments, our fears, our stories about who we think we are. The Buddhist path begins not by changing the world, but by watching how we move within it. When we see the patterns of our reactions, we begin to loosen their hold. The noise of the world remains, but our relationship to it changes. We become less like a leaf blown by the wind, and more like the sky that holds the wind. Emotional mastery, then, is not about perfection. It is a daily practice, a gentle returning to awareness each time we are pulled away. It is learning to sit with the discomfort, to breathe through anger, to listen deeply without judgment. In the stillness of that awareness, we discover something profound. Emotions are not enemies to be conquered, but waves to be understood. When we stop fighting them, they lose their power to control us. And in their quiet passing, we glimpse the peace that was never truly lost, only covered by the storm of reaction. This is where the journey begins, not with the promise of eternal calm, but with the willingness to see clearly, to pause, and to understand. That pause is the first act of freedom. To understand our emotions, we must look deeper than the feelings themselves. Beneath every outburst, every wave of sadness or anxiety, there lies a simple truth. We suffer because we cling. We want things to be a certain way, pleasant, predictable, safe, and when they are not, we resist. This resistance gives birth to tension in the mind, and that tension becomes emotion. In Buddhism, this grasping is called tanha, thirst, the thirst to have, to become, to hold on. The Buddha taught that all suffering arises from this craving, and its twin, aversion, the push and pull of the mind that wants pleasure and avoids pain. When life aligns with our wishes, we feel happiness. When it does not, we feel frustration or despair. But notice, the world itself has not changed, only our relationship to it. Emotions, then, are not enemies that attack us from outside. They are the ripples of our own attachments and fears. When anger arises, it is usually because we wanted something: respect, love, control, and reality refused to give it. When sadness appears, it often follows the loss of something we had clung to. The feeling itself is not wrong. It is simply a message showing us where the mind is still holding tight. To try to control these emotions without understanding their cause is like trying to calm waves without touching the wind. The effort may bring temporary relief, but the storm will return. True mastery begins when we see that control is not about dominance, but insight. Seeing the chain of causes that give rise to our inner weather. This is where the principle of anicca, impermanence, becomes our guide. Every emotion, no matter how strong, is temporary. Like a cloud passing across the sky, it cannot stay forever. The problem is not that emotions appear. It is that we identify with them. We say, I am angry, instead of anger is present. That small shift in language carries great wisdom. It reminds us that we are the observer, not the storm. When we bring mindfulness to our emotions, something remarkable happens. The heat of anger cools, the weight of sadness softens, and even joy becomes lighter, free from the fear of losing it. We begin to understand that life does not need to fit our expectations to bring peace. Peace comes from seeing clearly, not from controlling outcomes. The Buddha once said, when you realize how perfect everything is, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky. That laughter is not denial. It is the gentle recognition that the world was never meant to obey our desires, only to reflect our understanding. And so, the more we see into the root of our suffering, the less we are bound by it. Control dissolves into clarity, and clarity opens the door to compassion for ourselves and for all beings caught in the same dance of craving and resistance. Letting go is one of the most misunderstood teachings in Buddhism. Many believe it means to withdraw from life, to become cold or detached. But in truth, letting go is not about turning away from emotion. It is about turning towards it, fully, without clinging. When you hold a handful of sand too tightly, it slips through your fingers. But when you open your hand, the sand rests easily on your palm. This is the spirit of upekkha, equanimity. It is not indifference, but balance. A calm heart that neither chases nor rejects what arises. To let go does not mean to stop caring. It means to care without the burden of control. It means to love without demanding permanence. It means to feel anger without letting it shape your identity. It means to experience sadness without drowning in it. Every emotion asks for attention, not reaction but understanding. When you resist it, it grows stronger. When you chase it, it runs faster. When you pause, breathe, and simply see it as it is, the emotion begins to lose its power. Awareness becomes the gentle light that dissolves the storm. The Buddha compared the practice of letting go to a lute string. If the string is too tight, it will snap. If it is too loose, it will not play. Only when it is tuned with care does it create harmony. Our relationship with emotion is much the same. Suppress it, and you suffer. Indulge it, and you suffer. Balance it with awareness, and peace emerges naturally. Letting go also means letting go of self. The stories we tell about me and mine. When anger arises, we say, I am angry, as though it defines us. But what if we simply observe, there is anger here? This small change creates space between you and the feeling. You no longer are the anger, you are the witness of it. And the witness is always calm, untouched, infinite. To practice letting go is to trust impermanence. You begin to see that everything, joy, pain, loss, love, moves through cycles of arising and fading. Nothing stays, and that is what allows life to move. If a wave never fell, the sea would stop breathing. So, Instead of trying to stop emotions, we allow them to pass through. We let the mind be like an open sky, vast and clear, allowing clouds to come and go. Some days are stormy, others bright, but the sky remains unchanged. In this freedom, compassion naturally blooms. When we no longer cling to our own suffering, we can hold the suffering of others with tenderness. We learn that to let go is not to lose. It is to make room for peace, for love, and for the quiet wisdom that has always been within us. Letting go is not the end of feeling. It is the beginning of understanding. When emotions arise, the ordinary mind rushes to fix them. We analyze, justify, or suppress. We become lost in stories. Why it happened, who caused it, how unfair it feels. But the Buddha offered another way, the path of sati, mindfulness, to simply be aware. Mindfulness means being fully present, without judgment, not trapped in the past, not waiting for the future, but aware of this moment as it is. When you breathe in with awareness, even for a single breath, you step out of the endless stream of reaction. You stop being the actor and become the observer. Every emotion has a rhythm. It arises, peaks, fades, but without awareness, we never see its natural life cycle. We interfere too soon, feeding it with thought and memory. When mindfulness is present, emotion is allowed to complete its own journey. Anger, when seen clearly, reveals the wound beneath it. Sadness, when observed without fear, turns into tenderness. Even fear, when faced gently, loses its edge and transforms into wisdom. To practice mindfulness is not to escape emotion, but to illuminate it. It is like holding a lamp inside a dark cave. The shadows were never dangerous. We simply could not see. Once the light is present, even the most intense feelings become less frightening. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha taught 4 foundations of mindfulness: the body, feelings, mind, and mental objects. When you observe the body, you notice tension that mirrors emotion. When you observe feelings, you see their impermanence. When you observe the mind, you learn that thoughts come and go like clouds. And when you observe mental objects, memories, judgments, opinions, you begin to understand how illusion is formed. Presence reveals the truth that no emotion is solid. It moves, shifts, dissolves. We begin to realize, I am not this anger, nor this sorrow, nor this joy. I am the awareness in which they arise. This insight is the heart of Buddhist practice, not a belief, but a lived experience. In modern psychology, mindfulness is used to calm the nervous system. When you name an emotion, this is sadness, this is anger, the brain activates regions of regulation, not reaction. In that naming, you return to choice. You regain freedom. When you live mindfully, emotions still visit, but they do not control the house. They knock, and you greet them, I see you. And when their lesson is done, they leave quietly. Mindfulness turns ordinary life into practice. Washing dishes, driving, or walking can become sacred moments of attention. Each breath is a reminder. I am here. And in that presence, we find what control could never offer. Peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, calm that doesn't flee from change. In awareness, the storm passes. In presence, the sky returns. Emotions often seem to appear out of nowhere, but in truth, they follow a pattern, a cycle so familiar, we rarely notice it. A thought arises, triggering a feeling. The feeling creates a bodily reaction: tension, heat, tightness. The body's discomfort then feeds new thoughts. This shouldn't be happening. Why do I always feel this way? And thus, the loop begins. Buddhist psychology calls this chain paticca samuppada, dependent origination. It describes how one mental event conditions the next, forming a continuous circle of reactivity. Modern neuroscience confirms the same truth. Emotional habits are neural pathways strengthened by repetition. The more we react, the deeper the groove becomes. When anger arises, for example, it's not just about the present moment. It carries echoes of the past, memories of being ignored, disrespected, hurt. Each similar event reawakens the same neural pattern. We think we're angry at a person, but often we're reliving old wounds. The body remembers even when the mind forgets. The first step toward freedom is to see this loop clearly. When you pause and watch emotion arise, you notice its ingredients: a thought, a sensation, a belief. None of them alone are dangerous. Only their fusion traps us. Mindfulness separates these layers gently. You begin to see, this is a thought. This is heat in my chest. This is the story my mind tells. And in that seeing, space opens. The moment you bring awareness into an emotion, it begins to lose its momentum. Reaction thrives in unconsciousness. Awareness dissolves it. The energy of anger, when met with clarity, transforms into strength and assertiveness. The heaviness of sadness, when embraced with compassion, becomes depth and empathy. Even fear, seen clearly, becomes alertness, a signal, not a prison. Every emotion contains wisdom, but only if we stop feeding it with identification. Instead of saying, I'm anxious, we can say, anxiety is here. That small change turns the emotion from a master into a guest. And when you treat it as a guest, you listen to what it needs: rest, breath, understanding, not judgment or resistance. The Buddha once compared the untrained mind to a chariot pulled by wild horses. Each horse represents an emotion. Without mindfulness, we are dragged wherever they run. But with awareness, the reins are returned to our hands. The horses still move, but they no longer control the journey. Breaking emotional loops is not about suppression. It is about conscious participation. Every pause, every mindful breath is a break in the chain of reactivity. It is the moment when you choose not to continue the story, not to feed the fire. That is where real power lies, not in forcing calm, but in remembering you have the choice to stop. When you practice this daily, even strong emotions lose their ability to shake you. You remain human, still feeling deeply, but now with wisdom, guiding the heart. The loop that once enslaved you becomes a doorway, leading not into chaos, but into understanding. Letting go is not an idea to think about. It is a practice to live. Each moment of your day offers a chance to release what burdens the heart. Through small, deliberate acts of mindfulness, the art of letting go becomes woven into the rhythm of life itself. Begin with the breath. When an emotion stirs, anger, sadness, fear, pause. Don't rush to analyze or escape. Simply breathe in awareness. Feel the air moving through your nose, your chest, your abdomen. The breath reminds you, I am here. This is a moment, not forever. As you exhale, imagine releasing tension from the body. The shoulders softening, the jaw unclenching. This simple act resets the nervous system and interrupts the chain of reaction. The second step is to name what you feel. Say silently, this is frustration, this is worry, this is longing. By naming the emotion, you are no longer submerged in it. In Buddhist psychology, this is called noting, a way of recognizing mental states without judgment. Modern neuroscience shows that this act of labeling moves the brain's activity from the emotional centers to the areas of reflection and calm. You are literally reclaiming the mind. Next, bring awareness to the body. Every emotion lives somewhere within it. A knot in the stomach, a heaviness in the chest, a heat behind the eyes. Instead of resisting these sensations, turn toward them with gentle curiosity. Ask softly, what does this part of me need? Sometimes it only needs your attention. Often, the body relaxes the moment it feels seen. Then, practice short pauses throughout the day. Even 30 seconds of conscious presence. When standing in line, waiting for a message, walking between tasks, use those moments to return to yourself. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Hear the sounds around you. Let go of the urge to rush. Each pause is a small release, a way of emptying what you unknowingly carry. Meditation too becomes a mirror for letting go. When thoughts arise, we don't fight them. We simply see thinking. When distractions come, we note them gently and return to the breath. Over time, this practice trains the mind to release grasping instantly. The same skill you cultivate on the cushion becomes available in daily life. When someone criticizes you, when plans fall apart, when uncertainty knocks. Another key step is compassion, metta. Without kindness, letting go becomes dry and rigid. Whisper inwardly, may I be peaceful. May I be free from this tension. Then extend it to others. May they find peace. Compassion melts resistance and transforms letting go into love. Finally, remember that release is a process, not a single act. Some emotions will return. That's not failure. It's deepening. Each time you meet them with awareness, their hold weakens. Bit by bit, the heart learns to stay open even amid difficulty. Letting go in daily life is not withdrawal. It is freedom in motion. The ability to meet each moment with grace, to breathe in chaos and exhale peace. And through these small practices, the mind gradually becomes like a river, flowing, clear and free. Silence is often misunderstood. People imagine it as the absence of sound, an empty void. But true silence is not merely the quiet outside. It is the stillness within. It is the gentle space between thoughts, the pause between breaths, the calm beneath all movement. When we are constantly surrounded by noise, conversations, screens, worries, plans, the mind becomes tangled. We cannot hear the subtle voice of wisdom that speaks only in quiet. That is why the Buddha often withdrew into solitude, not to escape the world, but to listen more deeply to it. When you sit in silence, the first thing you meet is yourself. At first, it can feel uncomfortable. The mind becomes loud, restless, impatient. But this is natural. It is the dust settling after years of movement. If you stay, breathe, and observe, that restlessness slowly softens. The mind, once allowed to rest, begins to clear by itself. In silence, emotions reveal their true nature. What once felt unbearable loses its edge. You begin to see that anger, fear, and sorrow are like waves, loud when they crash, but brief, dissolving into the vast ocean of awareness. The stiller the water, the more clearly it reflects. Silence, then, is not emptiness. It is clarity. It allows us to see reality without distortion. This is why meditation is sometimes called noble silence. It is not about suppressing thoughts or feelings. It is about listening so completely that everything unnecessary falls away. When you become still, even for a few moments, The mind naturally arranges itself. Like muddy water left undisturbed, clarity arises without effort. Modern psychology recognizes this too. In moments of mindful silence, the brain shifts from activity to integration. Emotions settle, creativity returns, compassion expands. The nervous system recalibrates, moving from survival to balance. What Buddhists discovered through meditation thousands of years ago, science now measures through calm breath and heart rhythms. Silence also changes how we relate to others. When you learn to rest in inner quiet, you begin to listen, truly listen. You no longer react to words alone, but sense the emotion beneath them. Conversations become less about defending your view and more about understanding. In silence, empathy grows naturally. Even in the middle of noise, you can touch this quiet. Pause for a breath before responding. Notice the space between sounds, between one thought and the next. That is silence alive, not a retreat from life, but a deeper participation in it. Eventually, you realize that silence is not something you create. It is something you remember. It was always there, beneath the noise of the world and the chatter of the mind. When you rest in it, clarity blooms, and emotions, once chaotic, become transparent, light, and passing. In that stillness, understanding deepens, and you begin to sense a profound truth, what you are seeking in control. You have found in calm. The teachings of mindfulness and emotional balance do not live only in monasteries. They are meant for the marketplace, the kitchen, the office, and the home. True practice begins not when we escape from life, but when we bring awareness into every ordinary moment of it. At work, emotions often arise as subtle tension. The pressure to perform, the fear of judgment, the irritation of unmet expectations. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to pause before we react, before sending the angry message, before arguing in defense. Take a breath and observe. Ask quietly, what is this really about? Often, beneath frustration, lies fatigue or insecurity. Seeing that truth dissolves half of the conflict. When we meet our work with awareness, rather than ambition alone, it becomes a field of practice, an opportunity to cultivate patience, compassion, and clarity. Even simple acts like writing an email or cleaning a desk can become meditation when done with full presence. In relationships, emotions can flare quickly: hurt, jealousy, pride. But if you can pause and remember, this person, like me, also suffers and seeks happiness, your heart softens. The Buddha's teaching of metta, loving kindness, is not a distant ideal. It is a practical way to transform conflict. When we listen instead of reacting, when we speak gently instead of defending, the walls of misunderstanding begin to crumble. A single moment of mindfulness can prevent days of regret. Sometimes, emotional control means saying nothing at all, choosing silence as a form of love. Solitude, too, is part of the path. Many fear being alone because silence brings them face to face with their own thoughts. But solitude, when embraced with mindfulness, becomes nourishing. It teaches us that peace does not depend on company, and joy does not depend on approval. The Buddha often said, "Be an island unto yourself." This is not isolation, but self-sufficiency. The ability to rest within your own awareness, to feel whole without external validation. In modern life, when noise and connection never stop, solitude is medicine. A few minutes of mindful breathing at your desk, a quiet walk without your phone, or a cup of tea savored without hurry. These are small monasteries in the middle of the world. And when you practice mindfulness in these daily contexts, emotions no longer feel like enemies. Anger becomes a signal to pause. Fear becomes a reminder to breathe. Sadness becomes a teacher of compassion. Even joy becomes lighter, freer, no longer something to chase or fear losing. To live this way is to weave wisdom into every corner of life. Your work becomes practice, your relationships become reflection, and your solitude becomes sanctuary. Emotional control is no longer a discipline to maintain, but a natural outcome of awareness itself. And gradually, you begin to see. Peace was never hiding in special places. It was waiting quietly in the midst of your ordinary days, in how you breathe, how you speak, how you listen, and how you let go. Once a young monk lived in a monastery atop a hill. Every morning, he swept the meditation hall before the first light of dawn. He loved the stillness, the sound of the broom brushing against the floor, the faint scent of incense lingering from the night before. Yet despite the peace around him, his heart was often troubled. He would sit to meditate, but his mind would twist with emotion. Anger, doubt, fear, longing. I came here for peace, he thought, yet the storm follows me wherever I go. One day, the old abbot noticed the tension on the young monk's face and handed him a small mirror. Look into this, he said, and tell me what you see. The monk frowned. I see my reflection. Do you see the dust on the glass? Asked the abbot. Yes, master. Then clean it. The monk wiped the mirror until it shone. The abbot nodded. Now tell me, does the dust belong to the mirror? No, the monk replied. It simply settles upon it. And when you clean it, it returns to clarity. The abbot smiled gently. So it is with your mind. The monk began to understand. His emotions were not flaws to eliminate, but dust, temporary, passing, harmless when seen clearly. The more he tried to fight them, the more they scattered. The more he allowed awareness to rest upon them, the more they settled on their own. That night, the wind howled across the hill. The bamboo grove bent and rattled, and the monastery trembled. The monk looked out and saw the reflection of the storm in a pond below. Waves distorted the moonlight, twisting it into chaos. But when the wind passed, the water stilled, and the moon returned, untouched, unbroken, perfectly round. He realized then that his mind was that pond. Emotions were only the wind. The moon, pure awareness, had never vanished. It was always there, waiting for stillness to reveal it. In the days that followed, when anger arose, he no longer panicked. He simply watched. When sadness came, he breathed. When joy blossomed, he smiled. Knowing it too would fade, the storm became his teacher. And one morning, as the sun rose behind the hills, he saw his reflection in the mirror once more. His eyes were calm, the surface clear. He bowed not to the abbot, not to the mirror, but to the understanding that peace is not found by escaping the storm. It is found by learning to see through it. The story reminds us, when the mind is calm, the world reflects truth. When it is agitated, even beauty appears distorted. Our task is not to stop the wind, but to steady the mirror. Only then can we see life as it truly is, radiant, fleeting, and whole. At the end of all teachings, beyond the words and the practices, there remains something simple and timeless, awareness itself. It does not rise or fall with emotion, nor depend on calm or chaos. It is the quiet space within which everything happens. Joy and grief, fear and peace, birth and loss. This awareness is who we truly are. It is the sky behind every storm, the still ocean beneath every wave. Emotions, thoughts, and experiences move across it, but cannot disturb it. When we forget this truth, we become the storm. When we remember, we become the sky. To control emotions in the Buddhist sense is to return to that remembering again and again. You feel anger, and you breathe. You feel sadness, and you observe. You feel joy, and you let it flow. Knowing it too will pass. The practice is not to suppress, but to see clearly. Not to fight the waves, but to surf them with balance and grace. Through daily mindfulness, the self that once clung and resisted begins to soften. The boundaries of I and mine lose their weight. You start to sense a deeper intelligence moving through everything, a quiet rhythm of impermanence and renewal. Even pain becomes meaningful. Each emotion that once felt unbearable becomes part of the great unfolding, teaching patience, humility, compassion. Over time, life itself becomes meditation. Each breath, each pause, each act of kindness reflects awareness in motion. You begin to notice beauty in simplicity. The sound of rain on a window, the warmth of sunlight on your hands, the silence between words. These small awakenings are not escapes from emotion, they are transformations of it. The Buddha taught that liberation does not come from avoiding the world, but from seeing it without distortion. When you see clearly, there is nothing to cling to and nothing to fear. The heart becomes vast, capable of holding all things. Even when emotions surge, there is space within you that remains unshaken, the calm within all things. This calm is not cold or detached. It is alive, compassionate, and deeply human. It allows you to love without attachment, to care without control, and to feel without being consumed. It is the still flame that lights the path of understanding. When you touch that stillness, even for a moment, you realize that nothing outside can truly disturb you. The world moves, but awareness remains. The mind speaks, but silence listens. And in that silence, you find what you are seeking all along. Peace that does not depend on circumstance, clarity that does not fade, love that does not cling. So walk gently, breathe slowly. Meet each emotion not as an enemy to conquer, but as a wave returning to the sea. In doing so, you rediscover what was never lost, the unshakable peace of your own being.